Hello everyone, welcome to Dust and Salt. It's Will here. I'm excited to play this game with you guys. It's a new game that just came out from Prime Games. And from what I understand, it's a very story-heavy RPG. The best part about any good RPG is the story, in my opinion. So, curious to see if this lived up to the promise of something really nice and deep and filled with a good story. But regardless, it'll be fun to go through it with you all. So let's just go ahead and dive on in. All right. The trees rise like grim, angry giants, frozen in the midst of a timeless dispute. Their naked branches reach like crooked arms for the gray autumn sky. The bleak silence is disturbed by approaching steps. A boy, no more than 10 years of age, wearing clothes of wolf fur, and a man, mightily shouldered and deep of chest, with bare fur layered over his armor. Both from the nameless people. You and your father. All right. So I guess we're a boy then. Your journey towards becoming a warrior is about to begin. That is what your father said earlier when he took you to the thick woods near your village. As you and your father advance in the forest, you come to the edge of a big trapping pit once used for hunting animals. You notice that on both sides of the pit, the woods are thick and there is dense briar undergrowth. Your only way seems to be along the thin edge between the pit and the wall of trees and prickly shrubs. Your father reaches for your hand. So okay, I could either avoid his hand or hold it. He's the one reaching it to me, so it doesn't seem like I need to prove my independence here. So I'm gonna grasp his hand firmly. You grasp his hand firmly. You grasp his hand firmly. He looks at you with a smile. The edge of the pit is very slippery. If you are not careful, you might fall down. On the other side of the pit, your father rams the blade of his axe in a tree. This, he points out, is a yew tree. You will make your first bow out of it. You reach out for the axe. Not now, he says abruptly. First, I want to show you something else. Let's go. You leave the axe rammed in the tree trunk and follow him. Deeper into the woods, your father suddenly grabs you by the shoulder. You can't always rely on your eyes. Close them and listen. What do you hear? You close your eyes only to be surrounded by darkness, thicker than that in the forest. You cannot hear anything else besides the pounding of your own heart. But then, a deep, low, monotonous noise is coming from a thick bush under the trees in front of you. So deep, low, and monotonous. I'm gonna go with it. The wind. It's the wind. Your father shakes his head. Read nature's signs. If it were the wind, the other trees around you would not be so silent. He picks up a branch and throws it at something in the darkness. You hear angry grunting in front of you, but it quickly fades in the distance. Wild boars. Don't always trust what you see, he says, while touching the dead eyes of the bear head adorning his helm. Sometimes the eyes don't tell the truth. When you reach the end of the path, the view makes you gasp, your eyes wide with awe. A broad meadow and a small lake are revealed before you, surrounded by high trees that are covered in thousands of yellow, red, and brown leaves. Although winter is coming, for some reason their branches are not naked yet. Look closer, your father touches your arm. Your eyes are deceiving you once again. You squint. The wind blows and the leaves flap like countless small wings, dreaming of their first flight. It cannot be. The leaves are actually butterflies. Thousands of them. The king's butterfly travels each autumn from the north to the south, your father explains. Its children often eat away whatever crops or plants have been left in the fields and vanish before the first day of winter. Why is it called king's butterfly? You ask with curiosity. The big, bear-covered man thinks for a moment and adds, because it was born with a crown on its wings. Your father frowns as he hears steps approaching the meadow from the other side. He takes out his knife. A few moments later, soldiers appear out of the trees. They bear strange arms on their shields. One of them, bearing a red sun on his chest, steps forward and says, "We are here to collect the new tax for Merc, barbarian." We have already paid our taxes. A cart full of our finest animal furs was sent to Merc a full moon ago. What do you want now? Not much, grins the soldier. For starters, every family of the Nameless must give us their firstborn son. Whoa. Merc needs a bigger army. Is this child yours? Your father freezes. He hesitates only for a moment, but this is enough. Take the child, says one of the soldiers pointing at you, and the rest draw their weapons. Whoa, no way. Run. Your father pushes you to the side and plunges into the fight. His knife quickly cuts the throat of the soldier with the red sun. Blood gushing from the wound splatters on your father's face. Before the rest could act, the bear-shaped figure is amongst them, striking left and right with giant fists like warhammers. Your father is one of the greatest warriors of your people. But armed only with a knife against so many opponents, he has no chance. Soon he is wounded heavily and falls on the ground. Oh man. Should I try to help him or should I run? I mean, he wants me to run. Oh, so brutal. You run for your life as your father told you. Startled, the butterflies twitch their wings and flutter off. They fill the air with thousands of yellow, red, and brown colors, covering your escape. Several arrows fly past you before you disappear in the woods. Back in the darkness under the trees, you run until you are completely exhausted. But even then, you still hear steps and shouting behind you. You must hide somewhere. You look around. This place looks familiar. Is it the spot with the axe in the tree? Hide in a bush under the trees, hide behind a rock, lay on the ground, and cover yourself with fallen leaves. I actually kind of like that idea. You hide and try not to make a noise. The thick carpet of rotting leaves is teeming with bugs and worms, crawling under your clothes and on your face. After a few minutes, you hear a rough voice shouting to the other soldiers. A heavily armed boot steps over your hand and nearly crushes it. You try to suppress your groan. You lose one life point. Oh no. Soon the boot lifts its weight. Luckily you remain unnoticed. The footsteps of the men seem to disappear into the distance. You do not hear the soldiers anymore, so you come out of your concealment and run to the tree where your father left his axe. Just as you pull it out of the trunk, there's a shout behind your back. One of the soldiers has seen you. You have to get to the other side of the trapping pit you and your father went past earlier. I'm gonna run along the edge of the pit. You prepare to go round the pit. You recall how carefully your father made it through earlier. Scamper along the edge, watching your steps at the cost of your speed. You scamper along the edge, carefully watching your steps. You are almost on the other side of the pit when you hear a scream and a loud thud. You turn around and see that one of the soldiers has slipped and fallen off the edge of the pit, his body now crumpled in a twisted shape at the bottom. You escape your pursuers. Behind your back, a dark, ominous smoke is rising from the nameless forest, where your village is. The soldiers of Merc do not leave any resistance unpunished. Later this day, you are already far away from your home, when you stumble upon the camp of a raiding party of lowbrows. Your people hate the lowbrow tribe. You've overheard stories of how they pillaged your lands. You sneak closer and see two of them guarding three captives. A huge, one-eyed man with muscles that pop out like ship ropes from the countless efforts to free his tied-up arms. A smaller man with a dark skin and bright clothes all covered up in dirt. And a woman as beautiful as you've never seen before. One of the guards approaches the woman. He starts whispering something in her ear. The other guard is sitting on the ground with his back turned toward you. So it's two of the lowbrows, which my people hate. And they've captured these three travelers. And this one guy's distracted and the other one's looking away from me. I think I'm going to go for it. I've got the axe. Yeah, attack him and try rescuing the three travelers. You step quietly behind the lowbrow's back and lift your father's axe. The blade cuts between the neck and the shoulder of the guard, who falls and grunts with pain for a few moments before losing consciousness. Hearing this, the other lowbrow turns around and sees you. Fight him with the axe or cut the ropes of the one-eyed man. He's the huge one, right? Let me cut his ropes. You quickly cut the rope, with which the hands of the huge one-eyed man are tied. He promptly takes care of the remaining lowbrow and frees the rest of the captives. Awesome. After sneaking away from the lowbrow camp and running for as long as you can, you and the former captives stop for a brief rest. They tell you their names. The one-eyed giant is Ragnar from Northblaze. The dark-skinned man is Abbas from Outrimmer. And the woman only tells you her name, Nan. We owe you our lives and freedom, says Ragnar. Those lowbrows would have sold us as slaves. To repay our debt, I suggest we take you back home to your parents. We will also give you some gold as a token of our gratitude. Got no home anymore and no parents. No home, no parents, you say quietly. They watch you in silence. After a brief moment of consideration, you continue. If you really want to repay your debt, you can help me. My father was murdered and my home burned by soldiers from Merc. As you are my witnesses, I swear that I will dedicate my life to destroying Merc and its high lords, who brought this upon my home. If you say you owe me your lives and freedom, I urge you. Pledge your lives to my service until we destroy that snake pit of a city, and I will consider your debt repaid. That's pretty bold for a kid. Silence is their only answer. What are the chances that the three adults pledge their service to a boy? What were you thinking when you proposed this? You shake your head and walk away, ready to travel alone, when suddenly Nan says, "What is your name?" Without hesitation, you turn and reply, "Wayward from the nameless people." Make a move. Alright. Cool intro. Okay, so we have a pretty strong purpose here. We're going to go get some pretty gnarly revenge. Hints. Runs of the Sword Council. Click on any of the location flags on the map to move your hero to that location and continue your adventure. Cool. Oh, cool. We can zoom in and out. I love this art. This is really good. Okay. So before we do that, because it's clearly the only place we can go, let's check some other stuff out. So we're wayward up here. I guess that's our photo. Got 9 life because we lost 1. No glory. Can center on the player. Can load a checkpoint and we can look at our adventure sheet. Okay. Wayward. 9 life, 0 glory. We've got an axe. 0 troops, no skills. These are all troops. I see. No skills. No troops. Alright, so pretty straightforward. And then settings, which I've already been through, so nothing there. Okay. Let's head to Ruins of the Sword Council. You and your new friends find employment as guards with one of the southbound caravans crossing the Western Rim. One day, the caravan you guard stops at the Ruins of the Sword Council, a small staging post between North Blaze and Discord, which also doubles as a slave market. In front of you, there's a roughly hammered together platform where slaves are auctioned for sale. Okay, so we're working as guards, huh? If it hadn't been for you, we would be there now, says Ragnar, pointing at the platform. You nod silently. Ragnar pats you on the shoulder as if to express his gratitude once again. I'm gonna wet my whistle in the only pub here, your big companion states. I hate beer. I hate beer, you say. You're still at an age when you find the taste of beer more bitter than pleasant. So order something else, Ragnar shrugs. Just don't forget to keep your axe where it is, on your back. The punishment for drawing your weapon here is whipping. Here at the Ruins, the rich merchants who organize the slave markets and mercenary gatherings prefer to close deals without bloodshed. Their guards don't show mercy to those who break the rules. I promise I'll be careful. I promise I'll be careful, you say, and look away wondering where to go next. Okay. So we could go to the slave market, or we could go to the inn. There might be some interesting stuff to see at the slave market. The inn is probably where he's getting a drink. But let's start with the slave market first. You approach the crowd gathered around the slaves for sale. Someone shouts to you from behind. Hey, nitwit, says a rough voice behind you. You turn around and see 3 boys who appear to be older than you. They are holding their hands folded in front of their chests with looks of contempt on their faces. At the Ruins, nitwits pay a fee. Give us your money and you can stay. Don't, and we'll beat the living daylights out of you. And then you'll still give us everything you've got, grins the most massive one of them. The 3 of them are standing in front of you, ready to pounce at any moment. I'm going to refuse, even though I do not think this will go well. You do not intend to give them your money. Quickly assess your surroundings, think over your options, time to act. Let's act. Make a move. Oh, cool. Climb the ruins wall, hide in the crowd, call Ragnar for help, punch the nearest bully, threaten them with your axe. I don't want to do that. I'm going to hide in the crowd. You turn and hide in the crowd as quick as lightning. You are arduously elbowing your way through the people gathered there, who won't move out of the way just because some brat wants to pass. You can hear the shouts of your pursuers behind you, as they have obviously decided to follow you into the crowd. Keep running or start shouting fire, fire. That would work, but I feel bad doing that, so I'm going to keep running. You are strenuously making your way through sweaty, stinky bodies. Just as you are starting to think you might be able to get away, you stumble on someone's leg and fall to the ground. Soon after, the 3 bullies find you, grab you, and drag you out of the crowd. No one even lifts a finger to help you. You are just another entertainment for the idlers standing around. Before you know it, the 3 of them pull you down and start pummeling you. One of them grabs your right hand and twists it cruelly. Something cracks and you feel your bone breaking. Ugh. The next thing you know, Ragnar appears out of nowhere, causing the three bullies to turn on their heels and run, and you fall unconscious from the unbearable pain. Alright, going over here. You spend a long time recovering from your injury. You doubt that your right hand is healed properly, as it continued to hurt even years after the encounter. Despite the exhausting training sessions and combat exercises that Ragnar puts you through, it seems that you are never able to reach the level you have hoped for. Whew. Okay, we're headed to the next day. One day, Ragnar calls you to him. I'll teach you to fight so well that you will defeat every opponent you face. I'll show you how to swing two weapons at the same time. You want to keep your father's axe by any means. Ragnar gives it a careful look and lets you keep it. He insists, however, that you choose one more of the several weapons he carries with him. Okay, what do we want? From now on, you will fight with your father's axe as well as one of the weapons listed below. Consider them carefully before making your choice. A warhammer, a short sword, or a dagger. I don't feel like I'm the strongest. I mean, I guess I'm still a kid, although it's been... Yeah, I guess this is only the second day, so I am still a kid. I'm going to go with a short sword. A short sword is your weapon of choice. Feels like that'll complement an axe as well. Growing up. Years pass slower than the steps of a feeble old man, and you cannot wait to finish your training. For the most part, your small company spend their time eking out a living as caravan guards, a job that gives you indispensable experience and knowledge of the places and inhabitants of the Sin Lands. Yet after all these years, you still haven't settled on a decisive course of action that would allow you to accomplish your goal, killing the 7 High Lords and destroying the city of Merc. Nevertheless, you are sure that this day will soon come. Up to now, it has been mainly Ragnar training you, teaching you combat skills and tactics. You have discussed many different topics with Abbas and Non, but you have never really spared the time to study the disciplines they can teach you. Ah, well, what can they teach me? Head up to the northern mountain here. One day, the Salt Caravan, a trading wagon train that travels between the barbarian settlements in the north and the city of Weep in the south, arrives in a small town at the foot of the northern mountains. Having found a temporary respite from guard duty, temporary respite from guard duty, Abbas invites you to go for a walk outside of the town walls. You both walk in silence along the path leading to the mountain slope, the snow creaking underneath your feet. Abbas stops next to a large rock whose surface is jagged and distorted into odd shapes. How do you think this happened? He asks you. You think about it. It's jagged and distorted in odd shapes. I'm going to go with nature. I don't think it's man-made. I don't believe in dwarves, so the only thing that could have done it is nature. Abbas smiles. Perfect logic. But what natural force could have cracked this rock? You squint your eyes and examine the rock. Indeed, you can see cracks, as if there was a giant inside, struggling to get out, causing the rock to crack with his mighty arms. What is your answer? Strong quake from the earth's depths or frozen water inside the rock. It is very cold here with snow. I'm gonna go with that. Frozen water inside the rock. How did you know? Abbas asks, his face shining with enthusiasm. That was not an easy question. This is indeed the reason. When water gets into the small fissures of the rock's surface, and then freezes, it expands, causing the rocks to crack. You shrug your shoulders. Well, seems to be the logical answer, doesn't it? Alright, we're going to train with Abbas now. From this day on, Abbas takes up your training. The knowledge he possesses is enormous, and the speed at which you absorb everything you hear, read, and see is remarkable. Abbas is extremely pleased with your progress. You've mastered a new skill, science. Alright, Salt Caravan, all the way down to the south. One cold night, while standing watch over the Salt Caravan, you and Non are sitting by the campfire, quietly talking with each other. Ragnar and Abbas are long asleep, tired from the long travel. You hear the snoring of the other passengers, and occasionally one of the donkeys neighs quietly in its sleep. A soothing lap of waves against the shore comes to you, and the air is full of the salty scent of the sea. Tell me more about Merc. You ask Non. She stares at the sparks from the fire dancing in the night air. When she answers you, her voice is softer than usual. What do you want to know? So I don't remember us learning much about the 7. So I'm going to start just with something like, why would the city need 7 rulers? Today, Merc is a city run by 7 high lords who have no trust in each other. But by the power of the old laws and traditions, they are forced to decide the fate of the city together. Power has been transmitted by bloodline for centuries, and no one has been able to cease that. Well, why don't they have any names? Seems weird. The real names of the High Lords have fallen into oblivion, and the rulers of Merc have only kept the names that people have chosen for them, she smiles. The crowns have been passed on from father to son within the 7 houses, and the people have always obeyed the orders coming from the 7 towers. Why are they so ruthless? Because the souls of mankind are darker than the blackest night. In time, the 7 High Lords grew swollen with pride over their power deriving from the divine gifts that once pulled the people out of the darkness. They became proud and unyielding, cruel and without mercy in their hearts. They stopped leaving their towers except to meet other rulers or each other. They could not stand the mortal eyes of their commoners to defile their divine vestiges. What is more, they also grew suspicious of each other, and so each of them has his own soldiers, apart from the city watch and the army of Merc. What are the dark regiments? The 7 turned their greedy eyes to their neighboring lands and waged wars with them. Even after imposing their power on the surrounding tribes and peoples, they still wanted more. They began taking small children from the conquered lands, yeah, we know that, training them to serve Merc. Thus, the dark regiments were created. The armies of Merc attacked lands farther and farther from their own, and the power of the city continued to grow. The branches in the fire crackle, throwing a swarm of sparks. Merc has become a city governed by hard-hearted rulers, far off from their subjects. It is one of the most powerful, but also one of the most hated cities in the West Rim, and its strength reaches even some of the North lands. Every nation, every tribe, and every ruler in these parts of the Sinlands fear it, and they are full of hate for it. Silence falls around the campfire. You can read sadness in Nan's face, though you do not understand why. Since she continues to be silent, you utter, "Tell me more about you, Nan." "I've been wandering the Sinlands since I was 16. At the age of 18, I was already a mercenary guarding caravans. That's how I met Ragnar and Abbas, and later you." Nan briefly tells the story of her childhood and the years that followed. Dust and ashes will be the only thing to remain of this city. If all the hatred that has accumulated against Merc is unleashed, dust and ashes will be the only thing to remain of this city. Nan rubs her eyes, tired of staring at the campfire, and looks at you through the dancing flames. And rightly so. After all the blood we have shed, I can say that we have earned nothing more than dust and ashes. "Oh, why do you speak as if you are part of Merc?" Nan sighs in response. "I myself was born in Merc. I left my birthplace when I was old enough to realize what was happening within its walls and felt revolted by my own city. How could I conquer the mighty city? First, you have to take lead of your own people. You have to win the trust of the nameless people. You squint your eyes, anticipating this will not be an easy task. The biggest problem for you is that nothing suggests that the current leader, Rod Hammond, would soon abandon or lose his position. How can I unite the nations against Merc? It seems like they all hate Merc already. If you could unite the nameless people under your lead, you could negotiate with the surrounding cities and nations for a union against Merc. The influence of Merc grows threatening, and I think that the surrounding peoples would support any undertaking that might weaken the power of the 7. You are silent as you consider all the things that you and Nan talked about. The last few years of your short life have made you extremely mature for your age. Your co-vowels would not be able to carry the burden you have shouldered, but you are confident that you will do well. How do you know I'm not lying to you? Nan says suddenly. You look at her shocked. After all, I was born in Merc, and you want to raze it to the ground. How do you know I didn't lie when I swore to help you seek revenge? In fact, how do you know I won't kill you now? If you really wanted to kill me, why would you wait until now? It's true. If I really wanted to protect Merc, I would have killed you when we first met. I always look for the motives behind a person's actions. Is that person good to you? Why? Why do they do it? What benefits could this bring them? Are they attacking you? Are they using their sword or words? And again, why are they doing that? How could they benefit from it? Soon your conversation comes to a halt. Alright, we're going to go to Nan's trainings. From the next day on, Nan takes upon herself part of your training. She teaches you to recognize human emotions, interpret people's behavior, and restrain your own feelings. You learn everything she teaches you easily, and she's proud of your fast progress. You've mastered a new skill, insight. Alright, we're going to head off to the Dusty Caravan. You know, one thing that's interesting to think about is how much the different choices we're making seem to matter. Like, there was a path where we wouldn't have actually fallen in with these three people. So would we have not been trained by them? Would we not have learned insight and science and gotten a sword? I don't know. Maybe it would have ended up happening no matter what we did. Years passed, and the boy who once fled the nameless forest is now a strong, tall young man. As a mercenary who guards caravans, you've had the chance to travel almost all over the Sin Lands. You are 18 years old. More than 10 years have passed since the soldiers of Merc killed your father. With every passing winter, you feel your strength and determination to fulfill your oath grow more stronger. Throughout this time, you get more and more attached to your three mentors, who are now not only your advisors, but also your friends. Uh-oh. It seems ominous, right? Ragnar, Nan, and Abbas have tried to pass on to you almost every bit of knowledge and skill they possess. Your mastery of martial arts is not so impressive. However, your education in science is no worse than that of any young nobleman. And even the most experienced diplomats could envy your ability to discern the true nature of any situation and act accordingly. Wow, okay, so this seems to have already kind of decided what kind of character we're going to be. Not the strongest, which I guessed. Pretty good at science and really, really good at insight. Okay, let's head here to Vaingloria. After your most recent tour with the Dusty Caravan, which traverses the lands between North Blaze and Discord, you are now traveling back to the ruins of the Sword Council, where you hope for a wealthy merchant or caravan driver to be offering work for 4 experienced mercenaries. You stop at Vaingloria, a medium-sized city where people earn their livelihood mostly by selling their famous apple wine. In one of the city taverns, named Fill Me Up, you and Ragnar raise your not thoroughly wiped pints. Your senses are flooded with the bitter taste of cider, which leaves an aftertaste of mold in your mouth. The keeper brings you a jug, and Abba starts drinking straight from it. Nan has gone for a walk around the city. Suddenly, Nan bursts into the tavern and sits at your table. We have to leave. Now, she says, breathless from the run here. Well, I trust her. Where to? Nan shakes her head. To the Nameless Forest. I met a man from your people, Wayward. Their old leader, Rodhammond, is dead. Your hand freezes, holding the pint to your lips. We don't have any time to lose. Abbas puts down the jug reluctantly. Yeah, we gotta go take over. He wipes his mouth and says, It is a pity for the good wine. You are right. This is an incredible opportunity to take the lead of the Nameless people and to move one step closer to fulfilling your oath. You leave Vaingloria and head for the Nameless Forest. You arrive in your native village a couple of days later, just in time for the clan's moot. Despite the years of wandering, you feel your home calling to you. At that moment, you realize how much you have missed it. A burning feeling rears up inside you, because you know that your childhood, your family, and your chance for a normal life were taken away by Merc. Let's see if we can find anyone we know. Look for some distant relatives. You easily find the hut where 2 of your distant cousins live. They recognize you despite the time that has passed. May the dust fate avoid you, my nameless brother, they greet you. May the dust fate avoid you, you repeat the ritual greeting of the nameless in response. We haven't seen you in 10 years, ever since my father was murdered and our home was burned to the grounds by the dogs of Merc. Your voice is void of trembling, but filled with anger. I chose for myself the name of Wayward. You have to tell us that story, Wayward, says your younger cousin. Tomorrow, after the clan's moot. We joined the ranks of the Nameless Wolves, the other one adds proudly. That is a great honor, brothers. I'm afraid my time here depends entirely on the outcome of today's events. Where exactly does the clan's moot take place? You learn that the clan's moot will be held in the Broad Meadow, where people from all the villages of the Nameless Forest will gather to elect their new leader. Alright, here we go. The Broad Meadow buzzes with the noise of people from all the corners of the Nameless Forest. In the crowd, you notice many members of the Nameless Bears, as well as quite a few of the Nameless Wolves. The red-haired furs of the nameless foxes and the antlers of the Nameless Deer are also visible. You put your name in for the Contenders Trial, where candidates test their martial prowess to prove they are fit to lead the Nameless. The final trial is to speak in front of the elders. While waiting for the lots to be drawn, you can learn more about the soldiers of the Nameless Forest. Who do you want to know more about? Wolves is, I think, what our cousins joined. Let's check that one out. The Nameless Wolves are armed with swords and are the backbone of the Nameless army. The gray wolf furs they wear on their backs and their light wooden shields are their only protection. Although they are poorly protected, they are furious warriors who are extremely agile and can strike with lightning speed. The Nameless Wolves can often catch their opponent by surprise and break through the enemy's ranks where least expected. To see your cousins in their squads. You see your cousins in their squads, and they wave at you warmly when they notice you. Alright, let's learn about the bears. The Nameless Bears layer bare furs over their heavy armor and wield large hammers that can break even the toughest defenses. How about the foxes? The archers of your people, wielding short but deadly bows and long knives. And the deers are warriors who proudly wear deer antlers attached to their helmets and bear long spears that can bring down any horseman. It turns out that besides you, there are 3 other contenders who wish to be the head of the Nameless people. Rumor has it that Icarion, who is one of the contenders, and the heir to the largest clan of the Nameless Foxes, organized the murder of old Rodhammon. Non whispers in your ear. That is why there are so few contenders for the leadership this time. A lot of people are afraid of him. The lots are drawn, and you have to fight against a nameless wolf by the name of Stidden. The other fight will be between Icarion and a member of a renowned clan of the Nameless Deer. Prepare for a duel. Uh-oh. Alright, we're going for a duel. The fights take place in the middle of a broad meadow. The gathered crowd leaves a large empty space to serve as an arena for you and Stidden. Let's examine our opponent. You take a careful look at your opponent. He's a little taller than you, maybe a couple of years older. His movements are confident and his gaze is calm. Your blades cross a few times with a clang, but neither of you dares to launch an all-out attack. During the next clash, the Nameless Wolf deflects the blow of your axe with his sword. Let's swing with the sword then. You swing with your sword, trying to surprise your opponent. You aim for... I'll go for his shield. It doesn't protect them much. As you take a swing with your short sword, putting your entire weight behind your strike, he raises his shield. Stidden withstands the force of your blow and knees you in the groin. You groan and double over, failing to jump aside from his next strike, which results in a deep wound on your shoulder. Your adversary, clearly encouraged by this success, throws himself back at you. This time, however, you manage to sidestep his attack and cut him with your axe, sending him flailing to the ground, covered in blood. You lose 2 life points, but Stidden is at your mercy. You stand above the defeated Stidden, panting from the battle. Sweat is running down your forehead and into your eyes. You wipe it off and look at the 3 nameless elders who are there to observe and make sure that the tradition of the vote is properly upheld. What else do they expect from you? One of them, as if reading your thoughts, says, "His life is in your hands. Decide what will become of it." You look at Stidden. His face is blank, but in his staring eyes you see a silent plea. We'll spare him. Every ruler should know mercy too, you think. Get up, you say to Stidden. I give you your life. Remember my kindness. Still looking stunned, Stidden gets unsteadily to his feet. He bows his head to you in gratitude and disappears into the crowd, which is loudly discussing your noble act. You gain 1 glory point. Alright, to Icarian. During the second fight, Icarian defeats his opponent and takes his life. Not shocking. This means that the nameless people must choose between you and Icarian. The tradition demands that before anyone casts his or her vote, each of you has to give a speech about how you intend to govern. Hear his speech. Icarian goes first. He talks about how he served Rodhammon faithfully before the old leader was struck by a rogue arrow intended for a bear, how he regrets that he has lost such a valuable mentor, and how he will do his best to follow the wise path laid by Rodhammon. When he finishes his speech at last, some of the old men in the crowd are snoring quietly. Some nameless soldiers stamp their feet in approval at Icarian's words, but most of them are silently awaiting your speech. It is your turn. Now, it is your turn. You stand before your people and meet the numerous eyes gazing at you. These people have been led by Rodhammon until recently, and under this rule they have suffered many military losses. The Nameless Forest is often under attack, and many children have been kidnapped to become part of the Dark Regiments. What can these people expect from you? Win them back their lost honor and glory, rich spoils from future campaigns, or stand up against the troops of Merc who take away their children. I mean, let's go with what we're really all about. It's the honest answer. Your words touch upon what is most precious for the Nameless, their children. Over the last 10 years, almost every clan has had a son taken away by Merc soldiers to serve in the ranks of the Dark Regiments. There's a constant fear lurking in the hearts of the Nameless families that this can happen to their children at any time. You soon realize that you have made the right choice. You hear many cries of approval from the crowd, and see many people looking at you with a smile on their face. Even though they do not know you, you have promised them what they want the most, not to live in fear for their children anymore. And this is enough for them to trust you. Time for the vote. When the time comes for the Nameless to make their choice, the majority votes for you. Icarian approaches you to greet you. He stretches out his hand and says, "Congratulations, you won your victory fairly. I swear to serve you faithfully." Sure. You gain 2 glory points, and then insight. Despite Icarian's humble words, there is fury and hatred in his eyes. Something tells you that this will not be your last altercation with this man, and that you would do wisely not to trust him too much. You accept the greetings apathetically, and then go looking for your companions. You feel that they're already a step closer to fulfilling your oath. You feel that you are already a step closer to fulfilling your oath. Alright, cool. We are now in charge. So we've kind of gone full circle from a kid to cast out to return home and now in charge and ready to make our move and destroying this evil city. So let's go ahead and take a break here. It's an interesting game. It's very, very story heavy, as we kind of expected. And it's kind of interesting to think that it seems like a lot of the decisions are really mattering. But interested to see what happens from here. If you guys like this, if you like the video, you can go ahead and like it. Since it's the first one, it does help out a lot. If you haven't subscribed and you want to see more of these videos, don't forget to subscribe. But most importantly, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time.